I bought a new brew system. I've been brewing since 2014, and I started out with a system I built. So I read in howtobrew.com John Palmer's way to build a brew system. So I bought a rectangular cooler. I built a copper manifold for it. Did a lot of like cutting, partway through copper pipe, stuff like that, and built this system. So I decided after 11 years of brewing, it was time for an upgrade. Back when I started brewing, there was just some talk about brewing a bag. It was a new idea, a new thing that some people were doing. Rims and Herms was not really common. People were doing it, and they generally had great systems. They spent a lot of money on them, either a turnkey type system or something that they spent a lot of money putting together. Back when I started brewing, I didn't have that kind of money, so decided to do something. Yeah, I did what I could, and it's lasted. And I still have the system. It's had a few upgrades, but mostly the same way as when I first bought it. But I decided it's time for this system. I had an opportunity to buy an Anvil Foundry used from a friend, and oh my god, it was awful. So the first thing I noticed was I had to do some electrical because I was used to using some fairly high-powered systems. This thing just trickles power, which is really cool, but it has its own power cord. I didn't wire in one, and I had a situation where the countertop was too tall because I wouldn't be able to get into it. I wouldn't be able to lift the malt pipe, and I would have all these problems of, this physical problem of being able to do that. And also, I was worried about, I have, step stools and stuff, but a lot of them max out at 300 pounds. Some of them less. So anything under 300 pounds, it's like, well, there's me at almost 200. Maybe it's actually 200 now. And then, adding on some weight, it gets close to the rating of these things. And I prefer to have the safety factor. I really don't want to fall. I mean, when you're my age, in the mid-40s and older, falls suck. I mean, and actually I'm at the part where if I fall, I don't break a bone, but it fucking hurts. So anyway, countertop too tall, floor was too low, cord wasn't long enough. So I ended up having to just kind of fashion something together. This is not a great way to do this, but it worked. I'm going to improve on this. Another one was my mill. So I left my mill the way that worked for my system. I was probably over milling grain back then, having other issues and just trying to get as much efficiency as I could. So there's that. Plus, it really feels like the mill gap somehow got closer. I don't think my kids messed with it. They know better than to go into the brewing area without being specifically told to. And they don't usually mess with stuff. I mean, they're 12 and 14, so it's not like I have little toddlers running around. But somehow the mill gap got really tight. And I noticed it was taking forever and a bloody day to mill. So I thought, well, maybe the problem's just that it's a shit Amazon special mill. It's made by somebody who's not being paid enough in a country where quality control's not always top of mind. So I got what I paid for. I should have paid more. But anyway, I ended up with this stuck sparge. And a stuck sparge and a cooler you can kind of deal with because you have space. You can, I can inject CO2 if I want, or some people actually would just blow into the sparge tube. I don't like doing that because I don't want my saliva on it, but whatever works for other people. And it's not like it's going to get boiled. So it's not like you're going to add a bunch of germs to it. But anyway, I had ways I could deal with a stuck sparge. I was totally out of my element. I got a stuck sparge basically in the malt pipe, and that created all kinds of havoc. So everything that I had planned on doing, and I had gone through the homebrewing subreddit, I looked at things that people were saying on the BrewTubers Discord, and still I just wasn't ready for that. So I eventually was able to get the grain to go through. I'm pretty sure my efficiency was shit. In fact, I didn't even test it. Like, I did get my starting gravity, and it was low, and I knew it would be low, but I didn't take the first runnings gravity or anything like that, like what Brewfather or the other one, beersmith would ask for, because I just wasn't worried about it. The other thing that wasn't great, but it wasn't a big deal, was I wasn't ready for everything, including the immersion chiller. I wasn't ready for the steam. The person I bought it from had built the steam condenser based on what Brian over at Short Circuited Brewing told people to do. It seems like it would work, but I just was not ready for it. The fittings weren't actually tightened on it, so I tried to use it. I eventually just gave up. It's midwinter here. I mean, it's February 1st when I'm talking to the camera, so I actually brewed back on Martin Luther King Day, and it's dry as hell in my house. Like, I go around, like, I'm sitting at my back desk right now, and if I go over here, I touch the corner beading. There's a wall right here with a corner bead, and I will just touch it before touching the computer that's sitting directly behind this camera, because there's so much static. I don't want to damage, like, my computer or anything, and it's that bad. Like, I'm usually kind of chill about it, but I prefer to not, like, damage my shit. So I wasn't ready for the immersion chiller either. I ended up using just my counterflow chiller. It works out really well. It worked out well in this. Yeah, I actually used my own pump. When I bought this, I got the Anvil pump with it, which is a little bit lower flow, probably better for this application. But I had my March pump. I had fittings on it, tri-clamp fittings that were ready to rock and roll. So I used that just because I was ready to go. That gets into what went well. So one of the things was that whirlpool. Like, with my old system, I had a whirlpool, but it just kind of worked. This actually worked out really well, and that hop cone in the center that they always talk about, that was wonderful. The other thing that worked out well was setting temps. So my old system, I did have the capability to do, I had capability on one of the vessels to do a PID, but it was not in the grain, it wasn't in the mash tun. I couldn't do anything there. So now you can do some recirculation, which is basically a rim system, recirculated mash system. And you can force more efficiency out of the grains if you properly mill them and not get a stuck sparge. So the recipe's in the notes. I don't want to go through it. I just basically took a bunch of malt that I had. Every so often I buy malt, and either I wasn't sure what I wanted to brew, so I just buy 10, 20, 30 pounds, not 30, 20 pounds maybe, or 15 pounds of Pilsner, or 20 pounds of Pilsner. So I had a bunch of Pilsner left over, some Maris Otter, some Munich 2, stuff like that. Hops, I'm doing good on hops. I had plenty to choose from, so I threw in some Azacca, some Citra, some Galaxy. Galaxy and Citra are two of my favorite hops. Azacca, I don't know if I've used or had, but yeah. So this is, I just kegged this today, so it's not carbonated properly. Incidentally, if y'all get a chance to go to this, yeah, there we go. Beer and Sweat, wonderful competition. Keg only, BJCP affiliated, so you get BJCP points for judging. One quick judging thing. It's it starts at noon-ish, noon 1, something like that, in the afternoon, so you don't have to get up at the butt crack of dawn. One thing of judging, judges get dinner, and then it basically opens up to a homebrew beer fest. It's wonderful. So, side comment. Anywho, so this is the beer. Not fully carbonated, plenty of fruit though. A lot of orange out of this. Just a wonderful array of fruit. Pineapple's in there. Yeah, there's a couple other fruits too. But a lot of orange, a lot of pineapple. This is probably the second most bitter beer I've made. I expected a much higher OG than I got. So, yeah, it's dry. Obviously, yeah, it finished at 10:06, so it's pretty dry. And that's really what I was going for. I wanted a dry beer because, we just had dry January, so no better way to celebrate dry January than a dry beer. It is really dry. Kind of a little medium lightish mouthfeel. Not as thick as what you would expect. Not a whole lot of malt flavor in this. There is some, but it's really more kind of crackery, and it's in the background behind all of the hops. But the bitterness is strong and right up front, so basically like a West Coast IPA style. I wouldn't say it's over bitter. So that's the good part. But anyway, East meets West kind of, because a lot of late hops, a lot of fruitier hops, but definitely the West Coast style, West Coast bitterness. Anywho, cheers.